Hello everyone, welcome back to Cosmic Rescue. I'm Cecily Saylor, I'm the founder of Typewriter Tarot, and this is a show where I talk to creative people about a creative question they're exploring, and we go deeper into that question using the magic of tarot. Today, I'm really excited to introduce you to DJ Cherish the Luv, who is based in New York City. DJ Cherish is an artist of many dimensions, a writer, a photographer, a DJ, a musician. They have an amazing life story. They have survived both breast cancer and were very close to the tragic events that happened on September 11th, 2001. And their photography around that event was also part of one of their artistic expressions. They do so many different things, and they're just a fusion. And it's really interesting to talk with DJ Cherish about this particular question, which is, how do I let my emotion flow into my art? So for a long time, DJ Cherish felt that a lot of their work was really just kind of a distraction from feeling the deeper, truer feelings of life's experience. But now DJ Cherish is interested in actually using art as a way to channel emotion and bring emotional expression into the creative process. So this can be scary. Feelings are intense. We often try to avoid them. So what happens when we really open those channels to let the emotion through? We have a great conversation for that, around that coming up. Stay tuned. Pay attention to the reading and the tarot spread because it's one that you can try yourself. And for our members, you'll be receiving a bonus cut from this episode where DJ Cherish talks about how they made art with their boobs before a double mastectomy. Talk about bringing some emotion into your art. It's a really cool story. You can learn more about membership at our website, typewritertarot.com. But whether or not you see that beautiful bonus cut, you are going to enjoy this episode. So sit back, relax, take it all in. Welcome, DJ Cherish, to Cosmic Rescue. I am so excited to talk to you. You're one of the most effusively creative people I feel like I know. Like everything I see around you has some creative element. So you are the perfect guest for Cosmic Rescue. Thank you for being here.
Oh my gosh, what an intro. I received that. Thank you so much. I was so attracted to these episodes you were putting out. So I feel actually so honored that you said, yeah, you gotta be a guest. And I was like, hell yeah, I want to learn about me. so thanks for having me.
That's the attitude we all need to take. It sounds egotistical, but performed correctly, it's very, very productive for oneself and the rest of the world, in my opinion. Yes, well, let's start. Let's talk about you. Will you tell us about you? Yeah, talk about the many different creative aspects of your life. Let people know who you are.
I am I guess you can say, audiovisual, multimedia, creative output artist type person in New York City. I work in music, in video. Anything that's revolves around love, music, art, nature, science, words that I could create anything, write anything about. That's why I'm here. I'm also here to creatively survive a whole lot of shit. So doing that, then I get to inspire other people on different ways to survive that shit. So this is why I want to know these things that we're going to talk about today, because I want to refine how I do it so that I also benefit. Right?
Yes. And I want to ask you, because there's something really, part of my gushing introduction has to do with I feel like my artistic bandwidth is writing, tarot, and maybe building my business feels like a creative pursuit, or this project that's Typewriter Tarot. I think it's more of a project than a business. But you can play music, and not just one instrument. You are also a writer. you're a visual artist. So you have all of these different mediums that you can channel your creativity through. And then a lot of your work too is this blending of multiple media together. And that seems so exciting and impressive to me, to have like all of this talent across these different media that you can deploy. But it also seems like it gives you many more choices and many more like decisions to make in terms of how you fuse things together and blend things together. Can you just say a little bit about that as someone who's like looking at you sort of like a creative unicorn?
Oh my God, Cecily, that's so much. I'm blushing. I really feel that deeply, that you, so much gratitude that you could see that about me, because I think it is also so hard as a creative to finally get to a place where you feel like you're seen, so that thank you. I'm really moved by that. And it's not like I have a choice, so the output that I do is a lot, and it is in so many different modalities. And anytime I try to simplify it, it always just comes back to this part of the vibration. And I questioned that for many years. And I want to share this because I think it's really important, because it's such a great open topic. I had landed into my vayness in my gender expansiveness. I don't know if I shared this story with you about how I grew up. I was like tomboy kid. I'm a girl, but I'm not interested in these things, and I'm not, I feel more this way, that way, and then some days I don't feel like any way whatsoever at all. I just want to create. I just want to have fun and express. And I didn't understand where that was coming from until I had a conversation with my mom as she was recovering from her stroke, where she divulged to myself and my two siblings that between my older sister and I, she had 2 miscarriages. Mm. And I fully understand in that moment that the spirit and the hope and the love and everything that was part of who they were flowed into me. Mm. And I carried my siblings' spirits and their wishes, their abilities, their visions. That's why I was always feeling like I was too much for myself. I wasn't. I was just expanded. So there are times where I create and I know it's not coming from one place, and I know it's not coming from one sense of spirit, and it's attracting so many things because there are all those sensors open and alive. And the more I in this life honor that and address that, the more I feel alive. And I know when I try to shut it down, I feel depersonalization, I feel numb, I feel depressed, I feel attracted to the wrong types of energies that would help me shut that down further. It starts to get clear in these 40s years and also post surviving things like abuse and cancer and things like that, and realizing whatever the word for this is, like my centered, lightning rod that attracts myself to things. And when I direct myself to those pure energies, I just create, and I almost can't stop myself. But we're talking today because I'm trying to hone the reasons I create and when we'll get into it, what I try to avoid in my creating and so on. But that's, I feel like what we're going to talk about is one of the biggest missing pieces of the puzzle that is me. And of course, there'll be more pieces because, they'll just keep showing up. But this one today is major for me in this time of my life, post-pandemic, when I have freedom and privileges to create. I want to wrap my head around what's waiting for me in this call. I'm so excited.
Yeah, I love that you shared that. And I love that notion that you can have this conversation with your mom and you learn about this, what were certainly, I'm sure, 2 really difficult, if not traumatic losses for her that you didn't even realize had happened before you showed up here. And this idea that the spirit of these siblings who didn't, make it to having a full lifetime here on earth, their spirits are joined with yours.
No doubt.
And that's such a beautiful way to look at that, and such a beautiful way to like try and understand yourself better. And this kind of comes back to what I was saying before, why self-knowledge is so important. Because there's just so many facets to who we are. And especially as we get older, and we have more experiences, and we can look back on why those experiences felt a certain way or why we fail to understand them. Sometimes we reach a place where we're like, oh, maybe it was really this. And you start to see the multiplicity, the many different like surfaces and layers and spirits that live within us. And the more we know about that, the more we can stop shutting out parts of who we are, and the more we can express that, which I really think is like the reason we're here, is to figure out what all is inside of us, and to have the courage to externalize it in some way and put it out there to be of service to others. So thank you for sharing that example. And I like that answer, because it's just like, I'm thinking like, Cherish must have to make all of these intellectual decisions about whether to use music or art. And it's just like, nope, I just like I feel the vibration and I grab what I want to grab and make what I'm making.
My tools are a buffet, basically.
Yeah.
I think that it appears that I play a lot of instruments, but growing up a Filipino American kid in New York, I play one thing, which is the piano. And that translates into so many instruments.
Well, and there's a lot of electronics in your creations.
Yes. Electronics, acoustic, everything. What I'm trying to find now is my personal voice through it. Ooh, that's a big, scary topic for myself and for so many. And I am so in a place where I'm really ready to meet that.
And we will get
exciting.
Yes.
Yeah. Awesome.
I have one or two more questions before we get there. Talk a little bit about where you are lately. We had a conversation recently. You had another tarot reading, and it had something to do with like kind of coming to this crossroads for you. I think you even maybe had Two of Swords. I don't remember. But actually like, deciding where you want your energy to flow. For creative people, there's always this looming question of like, how do I support myself? And how do I do what I feel like I'm really here to do, and the stuff that really makes me feel excited and alive? How do I balance these two things in a world that really just teaches us to like go to work and get a paycheck and somehow, magically become wealthy or whatever? I'm putting too many words to this, but talk a little bit about that space that you're in right now.
Oh, it's so exciting. So the last time we spoke, I was really aching about something like very specific in regards to my creativity, which was just having the hardest time finding collaborators. That was like, I feel like I'm not, really able to build and express all the things I feel like and so on. And I started to realize that looking for collaborators was a distraction, keeping me from what I really needed to do with my creativity, which is to really tap into my own emotion and not be, conveniently distracted by other people's emotions so that I didn't look at my own. And I understand now, because also a few weeks ago, I had made this big proclamation. You do it on social media and it's real, right? So I make this big proclamation after one night I had where I sat with myself and I realized I don't want to work anymore. I'm a creative. Oh, that's such a scary thing to say. Like, what? You don't want to work anymore? What the hell? That's such a, like, what do you do? And I sat with that, journaled with it, and pulled some cards about it. It's like, no, I don't want to work anymore. I'm a creative. I need to just create. Period. I'm not even going to add, and then the things will follow. And then the energy. I didn't even, because I felt like that was like, am I trying to find a plan B there? Should I just try to comfort myself? And I was like, no, I just want to create. This is what I'm here for and what I'm fully equipped for. My whole life leads me to this point where I could say, I just want to create. I say that, and within days, the biggest projects of my life come my way. And I don't see it as work anymore. I don't see it as gigs anymore. I don't see it as invoices anymore. I start to see it as, what can I create for this large entity? What can I create for this? What can I create? And the language, when that changed, I started to realize this is what we didn't learn in art school. I learned everything else, which was you create so that you can get a gig and freelance and do all this stuff, and completely changed. I posted that. A couple of people were like, fuck yeah, started to adopt that and started writing me like something shifted in them. And, I'm going to say post-pandemic, but, where we are right now. But through the pandemic, having everything stripped away the way it was, the work, the gigs, the schedule, put me in that place where I could say, what if I just created? Because then there weren't all the things I'd be like, but I still have this to hold on to. So the idea of jumping fully into my creativity, not using distractions that I know are distractions to distract me, and really dive into the core essence of who I am, all these molecules, me and whoever rides with me, to really fulfill what I'm supposed to do in this life. And as I told you earlier with that meeting I had looking at Jupiter this morning, that funny idea that I think I'm not going to be able to get to my final rest until I fulfill certain things. And I need to do that. And I feel it. I'm sure you have things that are like, you got to do. I have been putting off my gotta do's for so long. And I'm in a place where I'm like, not anymore. So tingles, I get goosebumps. Ooh.
Yeah, I love that. You just made this commitment and you put it out in the world and something really shifted. And I think our intentions and our like moments of clarity, if we really like embrace them rather than try to like, that idea, that realization doesn't fit in my life, so I'm gonna ignore it. Then we sort of keep repeating the same sort of problems and challenges we've always had. But if those realizations come and we really have the courage to embrace them, really interesting and fortuitous things sometimes follow. So congratulations.
Thank you.
I saw that post and I was like, yes.
You saw it. Oh, right. Oh, that's great. I'm so happy. I'm so happy about that. It's a big deal.
Yeah, it's huge. And that's great news that you're getting cool. I mean, I want to call them something other than gigs, but projects that both sustain your creativity and your livelihood. So
yeah. And that's a big deal for me, being a self-admitted workaholic in recovery for decades, where I found the busyness was the signal to my value on this planet. I say that now and I'm like, it's just like so ludicrous, but I get it, I'm still in that place. I need to learn from you. I think that's, that's what the capitalist programming teaches us. Exactly.
Just be constantly. It makes complete sense that tons of people are miserable or if not miserable, like not exactly fulfilled, because we're just checking off all of these tasks and not really asking ourselves why we do them, how important they are, if they're really important to us, and what might happen if we just didn't do them.
Right.
And of course, it depends on what the thing is, but I do think that's been one of the really beautiful aspects of the pandemic. And I was listening to a podcast yesterday with like a Buddhist practitioner who was talking about solitude and the pandemic and how, if we really kind of settle into solitude, and I think people had varying degrees of success with that. Like if we knew pre-pandemic, there were plenty of distractions in our daily lives. And I think we can recreate distractions even when we're alone, but there was some part of it probably that was unavoidable where we really had to think about is this how I want to be living? Is this the way that I want my life to look? You know, once we saw that life is, I think intellectually we should all understand that each day is a gift and an opportunity and not something to be taken for granted. But I think the pandemic really drove that home. And so it's really interesting now to see how people are recalibrating and changing their lives and becoming something more than they were before the pandemic. It's really fascinating and beautiful.
I'm seeing it left and right myself, and everyone's asking themselves, do I really want to go back to that?
Right.
And I think that's just wow.
Yeah. Well, let's get into the beating heart of what you are bringing to the table for this episode. Your questions, your topic are so juicy, very profound, really big questions and ideas. Let's set it up. Can you talk about, so what we're going to go into is like how you relate to your own emotional landscape and how that relates to what you create. And your main question is like, why am I blocking the flow of emotion into my artwork? So can you talk a little bit about describe how you used to think about creating, or the way that you approached it without thinking about it too much, and then what you're realizing could be possible?
I love this. I'm so glad we're doing this. So you just asked how, basically how my life relates to what I create. Very little. That's the problem. So I've got really wonderful documents on my wall that show I have a degree in advertising, graphic design, and training in the arts. So creativity to me was a means to bring the bag home, money, and I am someone who has survived really painful breakups. I'm a rape survivor. I'm a domestic violence survivor. I'm a breast cancer survivor. I'm a survivor of a lot of big story kind of things, head injury, all kinds of stuff. And none of that gets expressed through my creativity. And I realized that in just this recent year. Wow. I'm not going to say I wish I did anything earlier. I'm glad I'm getting to this point now, because then for the rest of my life, this is me. This is part of, I think that conversation of I'm not working anymore helped me get to that. Then what am I creating for? I need to create to express my emotion through what I create, and not instead of how I've been using creativity. This is where it became so clear for me that I was creating things and using my creativity as a distraction from my emotions. And what I want to know now is, if I'm creating through my emotions, do I heal in a different way? Do I heal in a better way? Do I then start to see the world and the world of my experiences as just, I don't like the word gifts because I don't think they're gifts, but they are experiences that help me create richer things. I have been okay with vulnerability, and I don't see this as that. I see it as different. It's more like more information. So it's wanting to now express and create, not being afraid to tap into the emotion. It's simple why I'm afraid to. It hurts to sit in my sadness and so on. But I'm learning that the more I try to distract myself from it, the longer the sadness sticks around. So that is where I'm trying to there's some kind of mixing there that needs to happen so that I can get through it in a different way. So that said, I start to perform now live. I'm playing instruments live, which I didn't do. And I'm allowing myself to feel all the feelings through it. When I started recording myself feeling these feelings while I'm playing, I heard a different performer. And actually a performer that I liked. So a lot of us musicians or visual artists or whatever we create, sometimes we'll look at what we've created or hear it and we're like, cringy. But other people could be like, oh, that's cool. That's great. Some people might tell there's a little bit of a veil, if they're a little intuitive. Other people might just think it's great because you're professional, you know what you're doing. But now that I'm in this place where I'm writing like a motherfucker and just like creating from the space that's like really here and not just trying to get away from that, it's a whole different output. And I'm so excited I said this earlier, like to know who I become in X amount of time, because this is how I'm operating now. What a gift. What a neat experience to like sit here with that. It's like learning a new language altogether. And nothing is in my way. And I have support like you. I have people who are like, do it. We want to see that finally. We knew it was there. And that gives me like, that's like, why didn't you say anything? But of course, like, people don't. You get to it yourself and then you realize and you do the work. And I'm such a newbie at it, but drooling at the thought of like, wow, this is the missing piece. So through my emotion, I want to create and not create because I don't want to deal with my emotions.
Yes. What a huge shift. And
huge.
I love how it stems from that like declaration you made, like, because if you view your creativity as work, which of course, like we know that a lot of work and labor and energy and time go into creative pursuits, but if you kind of treat it like work in an unconscious way, it can absolutely become that distraction, because like even for people who may not like consider themselves creative, they do the same thing with their work. Work is a distraction. It's that all that like task oriented living is just a great way to like avoid feeling. And the reason that we do that in one way, yes, is because some emotions are uncomfortable and do not feel great, but also because I think we live in a culture that doesn't really value the expression of emotion. I mean, I guess on social media, like you can get more likes for your vulnerability, but some of that feels performative and like, what about expressing emotion in just your everyday life? And we don't really get a lot of practice for how to do that or how to be with our own feelings. And I love what you said about emotional content or emotional experience being information. And I think that's like such a key thing to consider. Like, yes, an emotion can be uncomfortable. I love that in tarot, the emotions are represented by the cups and the element of water. And water is always fluid and flowing. You can keep it in a container, but then it takes the shape of whatever container it's put into. And without a container, it sort of finds its own. And it's constantly, the ocean is always shifting. Rivers are like never the same at any 1 second. And the same is true, can be true with our emotional state. We can certainly get stuck, but emotions are in flow and in flux, and we often don't usually feel like one emotion for, days or weeks at a time. I know like depression and other things like that, we really can get stuck in an emotional state. But if we're able to see them a little bit more like information that we can use, why am I feeling this way? Where is this coming from? What is this information good for? If I'm like sad or angry or frustrated or disappointed, how can I use that information to like recalibrate how I relate to people or what I allow into my life or how I spend my time? And so the more we avoid emotion, the more we shut out all of this information that could actually be useful to us in understanding who we are and therefore expressing whoever we are. So
you love this topic, I can tell, because you're like lighting up just talking about it. And I'm starting to love it too, because I understand why I was afraid of emotion is because it's always in flux, because it's so fluid, because I had always been like I need to know one thing and it's got to be one way so that I know how to operate. I'm in a place, this, halfway point of my life where I'm like, actually, I need to enjoy and understand how fluid things actually are. It's not as rigid as my parents taught me. And I'm finally breaking from that. And I'm seeing it in relationships and like in ways that my mind is like rigid about certain things. And I start to feel like, oh, there's actually so much more to this. And, you know, just be curious about what all those other things are. And that's so new for me. It's so new for me. So bring it, like, just show me more information. Because I also don't want to feel like I don't have all the pieces, but if I don't, I don't. I just want to like be in the flux of it. I love it.
Yeah. And I just want to add a couple things. One is that like, I found, or I've started to notice more recently in my life, that I can feel like a great deal of excitement at the same time that I feel a sense of loss or disappointment. Like there's, you know, it's like when you have a rain shower and the sun shining, like that's a landscape that exists. And then like the clouds move, the sun comes out, more rain comes, who knows? But multiplicity, like duality, can coexist within all kinds of things, including
that's all day. That's me all day.
All day.
And I used to run from it.
Yeah. And I do also want to say that like, if for people who have experienced trauma, I'm not trying to set some expectation that like, that's great emotional information, because emotion related to trauma is powerful. It can be paralyzing. That's sort of another level of emotional processing that definitely requires support and sustained practice and lots of, calibration in terms of tapping into that emotion when you're ready, when you feel like you have capacity. So, you know, maybe this is happening for you at a certain time in your life because there's maybe sufficient distance for you to revisit some of those emotions if they're ready to talk to you again.
Definitely there's a physical aspect of my readiness. As I mentioned, I would wake up just gasping with like oxygen and being suddenly awakened like, so something is happening in me physically as well. That is bringing me to this point of just mind is shifting to another angle. I'm not a different person. I'm just seeing these other things that I didn't see because I was like this way. And now I'm like, you know, and whatever it is and whatever it is for each individual by individuality and just emotional state of being, it comes when it does. And if I knew how to access that, we'd be talking about that too.
All right, let's do it. Let's get into it. Our first question, this is a 4-card reading related to letting emotion flow into creativity. And I feel like there's even so much more we could say about this, but I'm going to shut up and we're going to do this question. And the first one is, why do I keep blocking my emotions from flowing through my art? So I'm going to have you pull a card.
Okay.
Six of Wands. Okay. So again, the question was, why do I keep blocking emotions from flowing through my art? This is interesting because Six of Wands, I don't know, I should ask you, what do you see right away?
I see a very strong individual who is wielding power and has support. There are individuals behind as well with wands and support there too. I don't know what this is trying to tell me though. That's where I need your help.
Do you relate to the notion of like being afraid of success?
That's a good question. I mean, I have not found it difficult to achieve. I've been afraid to define what success means because then I wonder, well, then what? Then what's next? By the standards of what my ancestors wished for me, I have above and beyond succeeded. I have a lot of comforts in my life, so I'm not afraid of that. I like to share it as much as possible. But that's an interesting question. What makes you ask that?
Well, the Six of Wands is kind of a mission accomplished card. So you can see the rider on the horse is like returning back to community, heralding that wand with a wreath hung at the top to signal that kind of victorious moment. And then there are people standing along the pathway holding up their wands. And so that rider on the horse is sort of like, returning after a mission accomplished kind of thing. And the community, it's not just like a personal success, but one that impacts a group of people or a community of people as well. So I think a lot of times like people get blocked thinking that they're afraid of failing, but sometimes I wonder if for some people it's a fear of succeeding. Like, if I succeed, then am I responsible for like performing at this level going forward? Or then I have to be seen and recognized for what I've created, and suddenly it's out there for people to talk about. And I don't think these are like conscious thoughts that maybe run through people's minds, but like this block from being really visible or being, even though all of us, I think, want to be seen and recognized and appreciated, we also get some programming, depending on our experience, around like staying hidden or being small or not making too much of a show of ourselves. And so I wonder if there's like a fear of how much like success and community support and celebration might flow into your life if you really, like, what if you cracked your heart wide open, it flowed into your artwork, and people were like, holy shit, Cherish, this is changing my life. And you would just be like, I can't believe it. It's too much. Like, no, it couldn't just all come from me. And
you nailed it.
Well, the tarot nailed it, but
okay. We nailed it. And what it is the idea of coming from where I see this card in my life is that I have succeeded at doing everything for others. I'm in a place now where it has to be for me. And yes, of course, the display of that is, can I achieve this that I've done for others and community for myself? This is the picture telling me that I will and I have to. In fact, it's the only thing I need to do now for myself to achieve that. And I'm at the point where, the page is flipped. And now it's for me. And then, of course, that fear is like, well, then that means I'm tapping into all myself and my emotions. And what are people going to think of that? Are people going to think, like you said, is it performative? Are people going to actually be like, I know it in my cancer writing, through Sloan Kettering and every other thing I do in regards to that shared experience, that when I do express from there, people are very affected. That's not coming from my emotion, though. That's coming from an experience. It's still not the emotion. So being afraid to tap into what those emotions were, because I grew up not expressing emotion. Cultural, it's just a thing. So now that I'm in this place, I almost feel like I'm like 8 years old again, get to like relearn how to like cry and whine and ask for something and be mad or, manage that. Yeah, that's so intimidating to be like, okay, well, the next stage of success is to like really tap into my emotions. I just got like total chill of like, ooh, but we got to do it. Like,
yeah,
I can't not at this point, especially coming to the revelation of it.
Right.
Like, what am I just going to turn on Netflix and Hulu for the next like 5 years and just not try to like access what I realized?
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's the thing is like when you set yourself on this path, the messages will come, and then it's really hard. You have to be willing to like confront those, embrace them, incorporate them. And yeah, it's really hard to go backwards and just like Netflix.
There's no going backwards with this message.
Right.
No.
Yeah. And it's interesting, like I too am in my 40s. And so it's like an interesting time where you feel like, well, I mean, every year you're older than you ever have been, but, like I still think of myself as young. I understand that I'm at this age. I've had more lived experience. I give fewer shits about things that they used to really slow me down. Yeah. But like now you're at this place where it's like, well, let me be emotionally open, which feels like a regression when actually maybe it's like an incredible amount of maturity. And I was also thinking like how interesting that you've done all of this creative work and you did kind of take it on as like a job and as work, but now you have this like technical proficiency so that when you want to just channel or like get aligned with your emotional place, all of that technical acuity is just like second nature and in service of whatever emotional experience needs to come through.
Totally. I feel like technically speaking, I feel like I've been an apprentice to the world and everything else so that I can use that craft and ability now that I've actually realized I have emotion. It's like, oh my God, I have feelings. Oh my God, I have feelings.
So next question, we can kind of like tie these together because it's the same question with a different object in the question. So what's possible for you when you allow the emotions to flow through your art? And then what is possible for your audience when you allow your emotions to flow through your art? So concentrate on the first one for you, pull a card, concentrate on the others and pull a second card.
I call this deck my 78 friends.
That's beautiful. I love that.
I kiss them every day. I'm like, thank you, my 78 friends. I'm never alone. I have a lot of friends right here.
And practice.
What they want to tell me about the first part of the question is, I don't know, Cecily, you're going to have to talk me through this one.
Okay, cool. What's possible for you when you let the emotions flow more freely? So
Is that change? Is this a lot of change? Basically.
Yes, exactly. So that declaration you made, like, I'm not working anymore, that is a foundational shift where you're completely reorienting the way you think about how you spend your time, your effort, your labor. So I feel like this second piece, this like channeling emotion, is a product. The universe is like, okay, Cherish isn't working anymore. We're going to help them figure out how to, like what that looks like. And here comes this question around channeling emotion. And so the way that you've been working oriented toward the gigs, the marketplace, the structures that are in place in the different like artistic communities in New York, for example, those aren't going away exactly. But when you orient to the emotion rather than the work, I think it's going to sort of explode the way that you think about all of these things. And so the tower is when we dismantle like the structures, the frameworks, the foundations, the underpinnings of the way that we exist. So it's kind of like leveling, just like demolishing a house and rebuilding from the foundation. So when you do it, it's just like things are going to get cleared out. Things will change. There will be loss, but there's also this incredible opening, because the card that comes after the tower is the star, which is the card of like beautiful harmony and equilibrium. But first, the tower has to happen so that there's space for the star to manifest.
It is happening. It's been happening.
Yeah.
I welcome this so open-heartedly at this time. I, as you describe it that way, of course.
Tarot knows. It's got your number. But that's the way to embrace the tower that's the way to relate to the tower, is to try and embrace it as much as possible, as scary as it may seem. So it's a powerful, liberating force. Let's see what's possible for your audience.
Immediately I have like goosebumps, because this does mean so much to me. In the work I've always done, I've always considered the recipients. And then about 5-6 years ago, when I began my public cancer writing, the recipients were so real, and they were so there, and they were so receiving, and they were so going through changes and betterment, and from whatever I could offer. So this means a lot to me. So, okay.
Do you have any immediate thoughts about that one?
I don't know what this is telling me.
Well, the cups, as we've been discussing, are related to emotion, and pages in the tarot they come after the 10. So in every suit, you start with an ace, you climb up to the 10, this progression of like different scenarios or dynamics in whatever suit you've got. And then the page comes, like you reach the 10, and that's sort of like a completion of an arc in the suit. And then the page comes in as this like new part of another arc, which is related to mastery. And the page is sort of like a beginner, an apprentice, a curious mind, someone who's taking up a new idea or pursuit or project, and willing to learn, willing to be taught. And so
Wow.
I feel, and in this particular card with the fish coming out of the cup, I really love the fish, like the page and the fish are looking at one another, and they're having this moment of communion, even though they're completely different living beings. So humans and fish have completely different lived experiences. We exist in two different worlds on Earth. We have different experiences. We breathe, see, move differently. Everything is different. But there's this curiosity between the human and the fish. Like the human wants to know what the fish knows, like what is in there. The fish is traversing the landscape of the ocean, the emotional landscape. And it's like, what does this fish know that I don't know? And so in relationship to this question, like what's possible for my audience when I channel my emotion through my art, I can just see all of these people being like, what just happened to me? What did Cherish just do? And why am I like tingling / crying / laughing / dancing / hugging everyone for like just pure joy or whatever. And suddenly something opens up for them where they're like, there's something else that they want to know that they weren't thinking about asking before. So like, I just see it opening up this emotional world for people that they may not know what to do with right away, but like this new curiosity or this new appetite or this new playfulness or this new willingness to be emotional in front of other people, which is like the key to relationships. So yeah, that's a really beautiful answer. That's my take.
That's incredible, because and to that is, what am I going to learn from them? What am I going to learn from the audience after they're learning from this new way of me being me?
I think we need to add in a spontaneous question to the tarot spread.
I'm not stopping you.
Okay. Will you learn from the audience?
Ooh, I just got those goosebumps again. It's such a, oh my gosh, wow. What will I learn from?
Yeah, goosebumps are a whole new language I've discovered.
Just, I mean, my whole soul's on fire right now. Just so open. Okay. What will my wonderful audience, what will I learn from them? Oh, this looks very, this looks like a lot of momentum. Okay.
Yeah. The Knight of Swords is very like committed to an idea, very like the page is sort of like learning and curious, and the Knight is very directed. Nights are like on a mission, they're moving, they're trying to accomplish something. And that night is the fastest moving night and the one of the mind. So I almost feel like what you receive from them in terms of like community or reaction or emotional expression comes into your experience as like a new idea. Like it's going to fuel where you go next. So you have this like recursive process of like channeling emotion through your art to communicate with an audience that provides some reaction or feedback for you that directs the course of like the next thing that you're doing, so that almost you don't have to have this like long-term plan, which is like the work mind, like the long-term strategy. It's like the dynamic will replenish itself, you know, the relationship between you and the audience cycles.
This just shows me that there's a flow that I will tap into and be blown away by.
Absolutely.
And I think that's also awesome jacket. Like kind of want it. The fashion in these cards is just like too much. I can't handle it. But what you described is what I didn't feel from the way I handled my creativity in the professional way before, where it just was like just from gig to gig. I didn't feel like there was really this like dynamic thing happening, and that did not feed my soul. You know, it was just like, okay, what's next? But this kind of what's next is, it's almost like I'm not even questioning what's next. It's just like I'm being like pulled through this energy that is it's always tapping at me like, hey, you ready? I mean, what's going on? But why are we still looking at that stuff? You know? So yeah, that's great. I'm glad we asked that question.
Me too. I'm glad you brought that in. And so our last question is, who will I become? What will I become if, say, you practice and really embrace this notion of channeling emotion into your art for the next like 3-6 months? So
just so it's clear, every time I perform and I'm coming from that space, I am different. Just the other night, like I did 40-minute just, okay, I'm going to just feel all the feels. And it's like a ping-pongy bouncing all around. I feel it in my bones. I feel it in my hair. I feel it here, there, everywhere. Who will I become? Now that I'm focusing on this, okay.
10 of Pentacles. Oh, so good. So 10 of Pentacles. Pentacles are the earth suit. 10, I just mentioned, was like the completion of a cycle or like the culmination of an arc. And so it's almost like your commitment to the emotional experience, channeling that into your creativity, making that your self-expression and your service to the world, which fuels new ideas, also sustains you. Like the earth element is about the material resources that support us in life. So, you know, it can be really directly correlated to money if you want to think about it like in a very simple way. But it's more than that. It's also like the community that supports us, like, you know, home, food, nourishment, comfort of different kinds. And the 10 of Pentacles kind of depicts this sense of abundance that is both material and relational and intergenerational too. So I see this kind of related to what you were talking about with your ancestors. Like you have exceeded, I think, expectations that or desires they might have had for your success in terms of like the way you're able to live and support yourself and exist with a lot of freedom and so much perseverance. But that's something you can pass on to future generations of your family, whether you're the one procreating or it's other family members doing that. But also like other generations within your family community. And I don't mean like bloodline, but like the family that you have created yourself. Like, you become this example, and the abundance that you experience through the creation of this art is, like you said, something you share with the people you love. And so it's like all of this, the 10 of Pentacles is just like this beautiful garden that's flourishing, that nourishes many people of like an older generation and younger generation and the generation in between, and like a safe community filled with joy, comforts, delicious foods, beautiful music, great experiences. So,
what an incredible picture being painted by that. And dogs too.
Yes, dogs. Yeah, all of the like, all the the animals, the creature comforts for humans, and all together.
That's not bad.
Not bad. Pretty good.
So I should do it. I guess I should do it.
Yes, you should. Yeah.
I think I should.
Yes. Seems like it's worth the
yeah. I mean, why not?
Well,
that's wonderful.
Motivation. Yeah, absolutely. That it nourishes so many others as inspiration, and also you and them materially. Those are like the cool parties you can have, the get-togethers, the kind of support that sustains and lasts.
I've always pictured that for myself. I just didn't know what the road looked like to get there. And I, more than ever, feel close to that. So that's a really nice thing. Good card.
Yeah, that was a beautiful reading. I love all the experience you're bringing to the conversation and the tarot spread. I think that this question of like how emotional life and experience relates to creativity is incredibly important and not talked about quite enough. There's always like a focus on the process, the output, certainly the content, but not that relationship between what I'm making and what I experience and how I process that experience. And I think too many people are like, no one wants to know about me and my shit. I need to be creating like from my imagination. And there's never a divorce from our own experience and whatever we might make. But what if we imagine an even stronger relationship between the two?
That's really beautiful the way you put that, because there are so many kind of ancillary or just kind of byproduct side benefits to seeing your creativity that way, or seeing my creativity that way through my art, through emotion. It also leads me to shifting something really different in the way I operated as a creative, which was to create, then rest, create, then rest. It's flipped now where I have to rest, then create, because only then can I have the clearance of my mind to access this. That flip, all the things that flipped in this past 11 months. Wow. Just wow. Yeah.
Well,
that was quite a cosmic rescue, I have to say.
Yay, mission accomplished. 6 of Wands. DJ Cherish, I meant to bring this up earlier in the episode. Tell everyone where they can find you and your work and enjoy it and stay to have that Page of Cup experience that you'll be sharing with everyone.
Oh my gosh, since I know this audience is so awesome, please come find me on Instagram. It's the easiest. DJ Cherish the Luv. Love is spelled L-U-V. And DM me, comment on something, find me, and get to know the new me. Yeah. As I get to know the new me.
Follow along on the journey. Yes. You are an amazing human to know. So I encourage everyone to treat themselves to the experience of your presence and your creativity. And thank you for bringing this to the show. It is always a joy.
Thank you for creating this space for me and us and yourself. And thank you.
Thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Be sure to try the tarot spread yourself. Even if this is not a pressing question for you right this second, it might be really interesting to simply ask the question of the tarot nonetheless. So the tarot spread that we just looked at goes like this. Question number 1, why do I keep blocking my emotions from flowing through my art? Question 2, what is possible when I allow my emotions to flow through my artwork? Question 3, what is possible for my audience when I allow the emotions to flow? Question 4, what will I learn from my audience? And question 5, who will I become? So try this spread out. Feel free to share any findings and messages that come through in the comments below. We would love to hear from you. And if you'd like to learn more about Typewriter Tarot, we offer one-on-one readings. We have occasional events and workshops. We have a membership program to help you strengthen and deepen your tarot and creative practice. We have lots of stuff going on that we'd love to share. Special thanks as well to Magical Objects for our theme song, I'm Ready. And a special shout out always to Annar Verold, our editor for this series. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again in a couple weeks.